Well, we have a quorum, even if she doesn't. Edwina's out there.
Okay, she's coming?
What's that? 8? Okay. Well, that happens. I'll listen.
I'd like to know how many boulevards and unopened right-of-ways there are.
I drove around looking at
There,
them.
oh, got it, now it's working.
I drove around. It's usually end of pieces by freeways.
Oh, okay. You get a list of them, or you got a?
No, I just know a couple of them.
Oh, okay. Oh, I lost my little blue thing here. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this this city council meeting to order, regular city council meeting to order. May I have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Garcia. Here. Councilmember Fitzhenry.
Here.
Councilmember Sandal.
Here.
Councilmember Elliott is absent this evening. Mayor Gotel.
Here.
And Your Honor, if I can, I'd like to move an excused absence for Councilmember Elliott.
Second.
Discussion, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
He's excused. We have Patty Knights who would like to come up to the open forum for approximately 3 minutes. Make sure that the green light is on, Patty, when you start to speak.
Yes, it is.
Start with your name and then address.
I'm Patty Knights. I live at 1016 West 66th Street. I've lived in Richfield for 38 years, and I'm a dispatcher. And I did want to bring up a situation that I'd like the citizens to at least be aware of, because it's come up before several times in the last 20 years, and it's been an issue. So, an hour ago, the city council had a study session regarding the future of dispatch operations. This issue has come up 5 times in the last 20 years, and each and every time the residents have stated clearly they wanted to keep this essential service. 3 years ago, you, the council, did a survey asking residents the following: will you be willing to pay the additional tax levy to keep dispatching in Richfield? The results were 79% yes, 17.5 no, and 3.4 was no preference. Excuse me. As a result of the survey and the overwhelming response by phone and email from the residents, this council voted to retain the service once again. And if I may, Madam Mayor, in that meeting, you referred to our dispatch center as the gold standard, and we were very pleased and flattered by that. Experience is priceless. With a county person who answers 911, no matter their expertise, they may never have set foot in Richfield. In contrast, our 8 part and full-time dispatchers have over 150 years of experience dispatching for Richfield. And half of us either live here now or grew up here. So we have a vested interest in how the city is run, how the officers, their safety. Our children have grown up here. I had 3 daughters to go through the school system. It's a big, important situation. Our dispatchers are not just first responders, but your friends and neighbors as well. We truly care about the citizens and the firefighters and the police officers, whose our number one job is their safety. And like I say, I've lived here for 38 years. I grew up in South Minneapolis. I didn't know the people on the next block. This has such a community here. It is truly an urban hometown, and I have loved this city ever since I moved here and married my husband who grew up here. And I really hope we'll be able to continue and provide superior service that they come to deserve and expect for the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you for that. At this time, I'd ask everybody to please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I would now ask the City Council to approve the minutes of the Special City Council meeting of May 14th, 2013, the Special City Council work session of May 14th, 2013, and the regular City Council meeting of May 14th, 2013.
So moved.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And we have presentations. Presentation, the receipt of the city's comprehensive annual financial report for fiscal year ending December 31st, 2012. And I suspect that Mr. Regis will be.
Madam Mayor,
joining us
members
on
of the
this.
council, Adrian Mutzenberger is here from Malloy, I'm just going to say MMKR, to briefly discuss the 2012 audit and the financial statements and their findings and their opinion and things like that. So I'll turn it over to Adrian.
Okay. Is the speaker on okay? All right. I was told that some of you have the management report prepared by MMKR. It would be in red and pretty thin, looks like this. So the presentation I'm going to give today will follow that report if you want to flip to that and follow along with me. Some of my slides may jump a little bit out of order, so I'll try to keep you in place. Is that better? Sorry.
That microphone, you've got it, you need to talk directly into it so they can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just to summarize, I'm going to be going over the management report, and it's the thinner red one you have. The city's responsibilities are to prepare the CAFR, the financial statements, and MMKR is then engaged to provide opinion on it. We'll provide an opinion on the financial statements themselves and their fairness in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. We'll also provide an opinion on the city's federal single audit, which is required once the city has expenditures exceeding $500,000 of federal grant money in a year. So we did perform a single audit and provide an opinion on that, and I'll give the results of our audit on the next slide. As part of our audit process, we also take a look at the city's internal controls and compliance with the financial statements gap and with the federal compliance, OMB A133. We'll also take a look at city's compliance with Minnesota laws and state statutes. We don't look at every single law, but we do look at a number of them. So these are the results of the audit. First of all, on the financial statements, we gave a clean opinion. It's an unqualified opinion. It's the highest that we can give. For the federal single audit, again, we gave an unqualified opinion on the schedule of expenditures of federal awards. This is a clean opinion, again, in relation to the basic financial statements. Our audit report and special purpose opinions also cover the internal controls and compliance, as I previously discussed, and there were no findings in regard to internal controls and compliance with the financial statements themselves or with the federal single audit. As I mentioned earlier, we did look at Minnesota laws and statutes, and we did report two findings or two exceptions in regard to Minnesota laws. One of them was a late payment noted. You have to pay all invoices within 35 days of receipt of that invoice. The other one is statutes require that any bid over $100,000, the city is required to get a performance and a payment bond from that contractor. And one bid that we tested didn't have both of those bonds present. This, if you're following along, I'm now on page 10 of the management report. This graph here, or table, will present the per capita revenue for the past 3 years, and it's shown alongside of statewide averages as well. Total revenues for the city's governmental funds for 2012, and these also include Richfield's HRA, the Housing and Redevelopment Authority, were $36,185,000. This is an increase of about $3.2 million, or 9.6% from the prior year. So on a per capita basis, the city's governmental funds revenue for 2012 were $1,023 per capita. This is an increase from the prior year. The most significant change I noted on the table was property tax revenue was higher. This is mostly due to the reduction of the state LGA, or local government aid, so the city then had to pick up and levy a little more to make up for that. I also noted on here tax increments have increased $35 per capita, and this is mainly due to higher tax increments generated by the city's Interchange West Tax Increment District. If I'm going too fast, go ahead and stop me. All right, so this table is similar to the last one. It reflects the governmental fund expenditures per capita, and this again is over the past 3 years and includes the HRA. It's shown alongside statewide averages. Most notable here, the city's expenditures for governmental funds in 2012, including the HRA, were $37,871,000, and this is a decrease in expense of about $3.8 million, or 9% from the prior year. The city's per capita governmental fund expenditures for 2012 were $1,071, and this too is a decrease of $106 per capita from the prior year. Capital outlay and construction costs are the most notable decrease you can see on the table between 2011 and 2012, and that's due to the completion of this city hall in 2011. So that's why you're seeing a jump there. The next table here is the governmental funds, and this table is really just showing your change in fund balance. In total, the fund balance of the city's governmental funds has increased $1,173,000 during the year, and you'll see increases across many classifications there. The restricted funds, the most notable increases were due to capital project funds having extra intergovernmental revenue, which is grant-driven, also some transfers from other funds causing the increase in restricted there. You're also seeing increases in committed fund balances, about $459,000 from the prior year. The largest increase in commitments came from street maintenance and forestry, where you're bumping up that commitment there. This is a more closer look at just the general fund rather than all of the governmental funds of the city. So the table or graph you're seeing here is the city's general fund cash and investments net of any borrowing balances, and it was $7,705,000. This is an increase of $279,000, and the total fund balance at December 31st was $7,308,000. This too was an increase of about $354,000 from the prior year. And that's compared to a break-even budget. So what the graph really illustrates is that the city has been able to maintain a healthy cash and fund balance levels, even though the volume of the financial activity has grown. The city's general fund balance at the end of 2012 represents approximately 37.6% of annual expenditures, and that figure is based on your 2000 level expenditures. So you're sitting at 37.6%. This graph shows your general fund revenues, and it's compared to budget. So you're looking at actual compared to budget here. The total general fund revenues for 2012 were $19 million, which was $714,000, or 3.9% over the budget. Charges for services exceeded budget by about $224,000, and this is in plan check and inspection fees. License and permits were also over budget, about $108,000. That's about 13%, and that's related to construction-related permits that exceeded the city's conservative budget. I want to make a note that this is consistent with what I'm seeing at many of the cities we audit, where cities were started budgeting more conservatively in the license and permit area due to the downturn economy, nobody building or really expanding, and you're seeing that pick up again. So again, consistent with what I'm seeing. This graph shows your general fund revenues, and it's compared to the last 5 years. It really depicts the city's reliance on taxes, and you can also see over the last 5 years the decline in intergovernmental revenue. That's your state aid going down LGA, as we previously mentioned. Total general fund revenue for 2012 was $821,000, and that is 4.5% higher than last year. Property taxes were up, as we discussed, due to make up for the lack of LGA. Also, revenues from charges for services and license and permits, as we previously discussed, were both higher than last year. And again, this is due to the increased construction activity. This table reflects general fund expenditures, and again, this is compared to budget first, and then we'll do a comparison to the last 5 years. So general fund expenditures for 2012 were around $19 million, and that was $650,000 under the final budget, about 3.2%. Expenditures were under budget in pretty much all the departments. The largest variance we found was in public safety and in fire, both of which experienced savings in personnel services, mostly due to retirements, and you're replacing them with younger employees at a lesser cost. Similar to the revenue graph, this is showing your expenditures in the general fund alone for the last 5 years. Your expenditures in the general fund did increase $244,000, or 1.3% from the prior year. Public works expenditures increased about $175,000, mostly due to higher costs for street maintenance and for forestry. And general government expenditures increased $70,000 from last year, mainly due to increased personnel costs. It was an election year, which does result in increased personnel costs there. Again, consistent with what I saw at other cities. This table here is just showing your change in net position or your net assets in all of your enterprise funds. And they're summarized for 2012 by fund and by classification. In total, the net position of the enterprise funds increased by $497,000 during the year. The city's net investment in enterprise fund capital assets decreased by $285,000, and that's mostly due to your rate of depreciation exceeding any capital asset additions during the year. The unrestricted portion of your net position increased $783,000, and that's due to the positive operating results for the city's liquor operation and your 2 utility funds. And we'll take a closer look at each of those funds in the next few graphs and tables here. The water and sewer fund ended 2012 with a total net position of $12,630,000, and this is an increase of $363,000 from the prior year. Of this, about $9.4 million represents the net investment in capital assets, which leaves you about $3.2 million of unrestricted net position in your water and sewer fund. Your operating revenues were $6.9 million for 2012, and that is a 6.4% increase, about $450,000. That's due mostly to increases in utility rates and consumption. If you remember back, last summer was really dry, and last year's winter was very mild, so we were experiencing 70, 80-degree days in March and April, so people started consuming more water much sooner. Operating expenses, including depreciation of $1.1 million, were about $6.3 million, and that is a decrease of almost 1%, due mostly to sewer disposal charges paid to Met Council. We'll take a look at your storm sewer fund. This ended 2012 with a total net position of $4.4 million, and that is an increase of $104,000 from the prior year. Of this, about $3 million represents the investment in storm sewer collection system capital assets, so that leaves you with about $1.4 million of unrestricted net position in your storm sewer fund. The operating revenues here were $1.2 million, and that also is an increase of about $247,000, or an increase of 24% from the prior year. Again, this is due to higher rates and an increase in stormwater drainage fees. This was charged for new developments in 2012. Operating expenses for the year, including depreciation of $393,000, were $1,051,000, and these expenses increased about $96,000 from the prior year. This table is similar to the last few we looked at. It covers your recreation fund, which ended 2012 with a net position of $4.5 million, a decrease of $352,000 from the prior year. So that was a decrease. Of this, 4.5 million represents the net investment in capital assets, and then another 272,000 is restricted for debt service. This actually leaves you with a deficit fund balance, or a deficit unrestricted net position of 233,000. The recreation fund operating revenues for 2012 were 1,081,000, and this is a decrease of 54,000 from the prior year, mostly due to a decline in the ice arena revenue. Operating expenses for 2012, including depreciation of 340,000, were about 1.5 million, and this is a decrease of $635 from the prior year. So pretty steady, pretty even. As the graph shows you, 2012 is the fourth time in the last 5 years that the recreation operating revenues weren't quite sufficient to cover your expenditures, including your depreciation. This graph illustrates your liquor fund operations. They ended 2012 with a net position of 3.3 million, and that is an increase of 382,000 from the prior year. Of this, about 1.5 million represents your investment in liquor capital assets. It leaves you with 1.7 million of unrestricted net position. Your liquor gross sales for 2012 were 11.8 million, and that is a 609,000 or a 5% increase from last year. The Liquor Operations Fund generated a gross profit of $3 million in 2012, or about 25.5% of your gross sales. That too is an increase from the prior year, just a slight increase. It's comparable to both industry averages and average for municipal liquor operations, which you can see on this table here, which is our last table. Your net operating income for 2012 was $1 million, or about 8.9% of gross profit. The Liquor Operations Fund also transferred about $701,000 to the general fund and Liquor Contribution Special Revenue Fund in 2012. This table I slightly touched on already. It just shows you comparisons to your municipal average and also industry averages. So that's the end of my presentation. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to take them. I know I went quick.
Just one quick, and I just would like
Yeah.
you to explain, when you do a finding and you do a sampling, can you just explain for the audience, how do you do a sampling and why you might or might not have a finding?
Sure.
of
Sample
that.
sizes are driven by a population, and these are also driven by accounting standards. So it's formula-based. When we look at the population or the compliance testing I think you're referring to, our sample size is typically 25 or 40, and we'll look at, I think you're specifically driving at the disbursements we might have looked at, which we would look at 25 disbursements, and one of them that was randomly selected happened to be an invoice that wasn't paid within the 35 days. So did I answer your question? Was that the one you were driving
When you think about
at?
that, that's a pretty good hit rate, Everybody's going to make a mistake once in a great while.
Yeah.
I
that
don't
does
want you just to say that we do this all the time, but that you look at a fairly nice sample size, and
Oh, yeah.
it's to be expected. Sue?
I just want to comment, I wish all my clients paid me within 35 days.
Yeah, here. That's a great hit rate, actually. That's wonderful. Actually, it's really nice to see that we have positive balances in several of the funds, and we're certainly very familiar with what's going on at the Recreation Department, and we had a study session on the funds for the ice arena and what we might be doing with that, so to make that very different in the future. So it's nice that staff are ahead of this. Councilmember.
I want to commend Chris Regis. I think every time I've been on the dais here that we've always had a good answer back from our auditors, and I want to commend you for that.
Clean
I
opinion.
can't believe that. I mean,
Yeah.
we're batting better than the Twins for sure, so.
Oh, yeah.
And I did skim over it, but in your audit summary, pages 1 through 3, I didn't touch on it, but if you look at it, it really shows you how clean the audit process is. It says there's no uncorrected misstatements, there's no difficulties, no disagreements with management. I mean, paragraph after paragraph of indicating how smoothly the audit process goes. So thanks for mentioning
Very
that, because I didn't touch on it.
Thank you. Thank you for coming and presenting.
Thank you.
Well, with that, I will ask Mr. Regis to join me over at the mic while I give him a certificate of recognition for his hard work. Gotta put the mic down for me. But you know, this is so wonderful. Every year we get to do this, and I really appreciate the fact of the hours and the time that you put here and the time that you're here after hours and on weekends to make this happen for the city. So thank you very much. I'm sure we're all very grateful to Chris's dedication to the city. This is a Government Finance Officers Association of the United States of Canada, States and Canada, presented this certificate of recognition for budget preparation. Christopher Regis, Finance Manager, City of Richfield, Minnesota. This certificate of recognition for budget preparation is presented by the Government Finance Officers Association to those individuals who have been instrumental in their government unit achieving a Distinguished Budget Presentation Award. The Distinguished Budget Presentation Award, which is the highest award in governmental budgeting, is presented to those government units whose budgets are judged to adhere to program standards. From the Executive Director, Jeffrey Emmer, dated May 2nd, 2013. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If I can ask, Your Honor, Chris, before you leave, we've received this award, as I recall, consecutively for how many years now? It's a long time. 28 or 29 years. You are to be commended.
Yes. Yeah, okay.
Which just confirms for me what I always say, is whatever Richfield does, it does well. Thank you.
Yes, very much. We move to council discussion. Hats off to Hometown Hits, and I'm sure that I'm going to hear lots of accolades from the council here about that Memorial Day celebration. That was absolutely stupendous. So I will give it to council first before I say, Edwina, would you like to?
I mean, if you attended that event, it was just Richfield, like, when you think of Veterans Park and you think of that monument and the list of all those men and women, probably, yeah,
Yes.
Yes.
that have served, it just makes you feel so proud that we're part of it and that we are the ones that initiated it, thanks to a commission member. What is his name?
Travis Gorshey is the artist and commission member.
Great. And that goes to show how an idea from a citizen can spur something that is really appreciated and noted throughout the whole state of Minnesota. So we are extremely proud, and mayor and the city council were all there, and it was a great event.
Yeah.
And then I also wanted to, if I can,
Please.
I wanted to make sure that people knew that on Friday, May the 31st, at 3 p.m., there would be a grand opening for the new renovated liquor store on Lindale. And that promises to be, really, I think, another feather in Richfield's hat. And we expect that it's going to be extremely successful, especially since we have all that housing development going in that area. And they've got the great variety of beverages. And for those people that are, vegetarians, they have a beverage that's made out of grapes. So I'm sure that there'll probably be a sampling. So please join us on, what did I say, the 31st at 3 p.m. at the new renovated liquor store on Lindale.
Councilmember?
Just wanted to say congratulations to Travis Gorshey and the whole committee that worked very hard to put together the Veterans, Honoring All Veterans Memorial. It was a very nice ceremony, and I thought it was very timely that it didn't rain until 5 minutes after it quit. After the program was over, then the skies opened and we had rain. But a lovely program, very well done, and I think people were very appreciative. And I will say that it was very well covered in the press. It was on local stations at 5 and 10, and so that was really nice to see. It's a good publicity for Richfield and good publicity in honor of all of our veterans.
Councilmember?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will again agree. And one thing hit home when General Nash said that the memorial he saw at Veterans Park was second best to the one he saw in Washington, that no other measured up to it. Kind of hit home and shows where Richfield was as far as, you know, thanking their veterans and that. And we got a great piece of art there. People have to come visit. And I don't know if Jim's here, Topetshofer, but I don't know what he did to the media. It was on every channel, 5, 9, 11,
Yeah.
and a lot of them had pretty recent or live coverage. And it did very well for Richfield, so I want to thank him for that.
I want to thank you, Councilmember, because you were the one who hoodwinked General Nash when we were at the yellow ribbon ceremony for another city and asked him. He was an incredible speaker, very moving, and he was very touched and told of stories of the losses of 3 servicemen under his watch, and nearly broke in tears as well. I think, and so many of us have known someone and lost somebody in a war. It was a wonderful, moving experience and a great tribute. The other thing that I noted is there were a lot of families bringing their young kids there. And this is a wonderful tradition to pass down to people what Memorial Day means. It's not the barbecue out in the backyard. It's actually remembering the servicemen and women who served for us. So I thank those parents who think enough to do that. I appreciate that you teach your children those things.
One other item.
Please.
Okay. I did attend the Noise Oversight Committee on May 15th. I like to report when I do that. We didn't have a quorum, so we couldn't pass any real landslide decisions. A couple items that did come up, though, is just to let the residents know, there will be a quarterly public input meeting here July 23rd at the City of Richfield. I believe it's in the evening at 7 p.m., but that will be posted both on NOC and we'll get it on our website. I do suggest that citizens attend that, because at the last quarterly input, I looked at that and we didn't have much representation from Richfield as far as coming in and asking questions and that. A lot from Edina, and I know that's kind of where the fire is going now and it hasn't been put out. But they did come up with a lot of questions about the RNAV procedure and that. And I know Pam and the city staff is putting out kind of a letter, informational letter about what RNAV is and that. I do suggest that citizens go to the NOC site, Noise Oversight Committee site, and look what RNAV really is. If you think about it as your GPS in the car, that's what you're really doing. Is the plane is now going on a GPS heading, following a prescribed path that we've agreed to, hopefully, and it sounds that way, and that it doesn't wander off. And where we've had a lot of problems recently is due to weather. Weather's going to change everything, but the winds, when we're in what they call a vectored approach, and the controller basically just tells the pilot, okay, turn left heading 265. Well, if they could get to altitude with wind at 1,500 feet at the end of the runway, they're really going down, you know, Portland Avenue or whatever because of that. If we do an RNAV departure, it requires them to complete the entire course as their GPS says till they get to Highway 100. So that's why we're pushing for it. There's been some concern from citizens too why we want it on a defined path like over the crosstown. And like we stated before, it's because that's the way it was when they decided to fix all the homes. And I know they're getting some relief now. I'm happy for them now, but the intended use was to send them planes over a path that had already been mitigated and that affects the least amount of residential areas in Richfield. So.
23rd is got a council meeting. Is it going to be in Bartholomew?
No, it's, I don't know what time, it says it is the 23rd unless I have it wrong. July 23rd. Did I say June?
July, no, you said July.
It's also a council meeting.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's before the council meeting or not. We'll have to get that out.
Okay, you can check on that
Pam
for
may
us.
or may not.
Okay.
Okay.
What time do they start?
Yeah, I think it was 7, so I might want to duck in and out.
Okay.
And I don't know if you could speak now, Pam, but we talked about the letter that you're putting out, the informational letter, if you could just mention that.
Sure. Thank you for promoting that. Well, I know as the council, as we had talked at goal setting, just trying to increase efforts to educate our residents about airport-related issues, especially RNAV. But one thing we decided to do at the staff level is to create a new e-newsletter that anyone can sign up for on our website, and we're calling it Richfield Skylines. And the intent is to just put information out there as things happen or develop, either here at the council meeting or at a NOC meeting, anything we happen to become aware of. If we happen to get several calls in that all seem to be related and it's a question we can answer. So we have that e-newsletter now that people can sign up for. And then we were asked, it was a good couple of months ago maybe, about this the MAC holds quarterly public input meetings. And they had a conflict with doing it at their own facility, their own offices, so they asked if they could utilize our facility here. And I did note to them that there was a council meeting, but they were still appreciative of, and they're going to be in the Heredia room, I believe. It's pretty busy here that night, actually. But anyway, our residents are obviously welcome to attend.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thanks. I just wanted to bring up too, I know we had been talking, and I signed our application for the 4th of July, so we are in the parade. And I know there's been some discussion about trying to do something around electric vehicles or something, but I looked at the cost of the Segways and they looked a bit high, and we would still have to have lessons. At least some of us, I know I would need lessons, folks. So I don't know if people haven't, if you thought of another strategy. I mean, I like the idea of EV. Have you come up with any other ideas, Councilmember Fitzgerald?
I have not.
Okay. Can I ask staff to come up with something maybe, or think about something, or anything? I don't think
I think that's the council's.
I know it is, but if you have other
Prerogative
ideas,
there.
it is our prerogative. I don't know that I want to float to do that.
We used to do floats.
We used to do. We used to do floats.
Well, it doesn't have to be anything all that fancy, just, maybe just a flatbed pickup and little decorations.
Do we want to be in a group and have individual choice? Or do we all want to be similar? I guess that's the question.
Well, they hardly see us as it is, so I'd really rather stay in a group and get the sign
No, I mean,
out.
we'd be in the group, but a choice of walking, riding, or...
Yeah, because some people could ride bikes. I don't
Yeah.
care if people ride bikes. It's just that it's so slow to ride bikes that I chose not to.
Well, I think we should do something all together.
Okay.
Because who in the heck really enjoys watching people in public office go by a
Well, we
parade?
could all sit and watch the parade and cheer. That would be an alternative. No.
It's up to you, Council.
That too.
It's up to you, Council. So please chew me some ideas. Okay, let's figure this out before we get too far down the road here. July will be before us pretty quickly. Also, before we move on to acceptance of the agenda, we do need to
Madam
approve
Mayor.
the financial report.
Excuse me.
Sure.
There was another item. I know that our Congressman Keith Ellingson will be he will be conducting a senior citizen forum that will be held Thursday the 30th at 10:30 to 12 noon. That's going to be at Gramercy Park Cooperative at 6711 Lakeshore Drive.
I'm sure the public is all welcome to join them there.
Yes, and I know that, did you print the?
I didn't print it yet. We can get it up
Okay.
online, I'm sure.
So, thank you.
I'm sure. Thank you. Thank you for getting that out. I would ask that the council accept the financial report by a motion. I'll make the motion to accept.
Second?
Any other discussion? That was a great financial report. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Approved. Please, City Manager.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, members of the council, one other hats off to Hometown Hits, and maybe if I can ask in the control room if they can get even closer on this shot. Pull this up a little closer, if it's possible. This is called a challenge coin, and this challenge coin was put together just recently completed for the Honoring All Veterans Memorial. It's a beautiful coin, and it's got a picture of, you can see on the front, it's got a picture of the statue of Chuck Lindbergh, and behind it is the American flag, and it's got some wording in the margin that's also very beautiful. And in the back, it's Honoring All Veterans Memorial. And this challenge coin, there was a small production run that was done. They're available, and you can find them through the community center or perhaps here through City Hall. They sell for $10, I believe. But they're a beautiful coin to have. They're a beautiful remembrance of the memorial that we have. So I just thought I'd let folks know of that.
That's wonderful. That's beautiful. It's a beautiful coin. Thank you. There is I would ask the council to approve the agenda with one caveat. Item 8 needs to be removed because we need a unanimous decision on that. I'm sorry, Councilmember Fitzhenry. I did not know that at the time when I was making council assignments. That was your assigned duty. So you're going to be left off the docket here. I'll ask the council approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
It's approved. City manager, we have the consent calendar.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. For those in the audience, both here and at home, the consent calendar contains several separate items which are acted upon by the City Council in one motion. And once the consent calendar has been approved, their individual items and the recommended actions have also been approved, and no further action on those items is necessary. Tonight we have several items on the consent calendar, starting off with item A, which is consideration of approval of continuing the public hearing to consider plat approval for 6330, 6400, 6430 Lindale Avenue, the former Lindale Garden Center and adjacent commercial property, to June 11th, 2013. Item B is consideration of approval of a resolution modifying the healthcare savings plan for eligible management employees. Item C is consideration of approval of a resolution modifying a healthcare savings plan for eligible International Union of Operating Engineers Local 49 bargaining unit employees. Item D is consideration of approval of a resolution authorizing a corrected certification of unpaid water, sanitary sewer, and storm sewer water service charges to the county auditor. Item E is consideration of approval of a resolution authorizing a new 4-year contract to provide 2 police officers as juvenile investigators, school liaison officers to School District 280 at Richfield High School and Richfield Intermediate School, along with other schools in the district as necessary. And finally, item F, which is consideration of approval of scheduling a public hearing for June 11th, 2013 for the consideration of a new on-sale wine and 3.2% malt liquor license for the Noodle Shop Company, doing business as Noodles and Company at 1732 East 66th Street in Richfield. And that concludes tonight's consent calendar.
I'll move the consent calendar.
Second.
Is there a discussion?
I'd like to make a good comment, if I would.
Please.
I want to thank the school district and our police department for having those officers, liaison officers in the school for a long period of time. I think we had the foresight to have it there before trouble came, and I think Richfield schools have a real good history of being safe because we took the foresight to put them in the school and get linked with the community before trouble happened. And I just think it's amazing now that other schools are scrambling, trying to get officers in the school. We've been doing it for years. So I wanted to comment that we did it right. So.
Yes, nice, nice. Any other comments? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Councilmember Sandall, you have the item 7.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is an item dealing with the Richfield City Charter, and years ago, I used to be on the Charter Commission, so some of these things look familiar. We also have 2 members from the Charter Commission present who were at the Charter Commission meeting, and I'm sure they'll be happy to answer any questions the council may have. And I've warned Mary I may ask her questions too. So it's a lot of material here.
Yeah,
and I think for purposes of the council looking at it, it helps if you go to the back of your stuff where we have pages 719, starting at 719. And what that does is it just lists the various changes that are being proposed and kind of gives a summary of why it is we're even looking at all of this in our city charter. And the first one deals with, it simplifies, it's section 5.01 of the Richfield City Charter. And it talks about the ideas of initiative, referendum, and recall. It simply simplifies the wording in the section and also makes the substantive change that accepts land use and zoning ordinances from initiative and referendum in order to be consistent with a Minnesota Supreme Court decision. So that is a fairly, I would assume, non-controversial section. Section 5.02 says that it prevents members of committees and circulators of signature papers and signers from accepting or offering rewards, i.e. bribes. So that's a good thing. And it also says that this language duplicates the provisions in section 5.22, and it does allow the committee, however, that would be circulating a petition to pay for legal advice and to incur expenses up to $400. The limitation on incurring expenses is removed because constitutional concerns about such limitation. So that whole section 5.02 has been repealed, or is being proposed to be repealed. Section 5.04 of the city charter has to deal with initiative, and that one is changing the number of residents required to form a committee to pass an ordinance on that some members of the community might want that the council perhaps doesn't want to look at. It's increasing the number from 5 to 10 residents, which is also the same number as people who would have to sign to nominate a city council candidate. And then it also says that the second to the last sentence limits an initiated ordinance to one subject. So we don't want to confuse people by having multiple topics in any kind of initiative. It would just be one subject. And then the final thing that it does is it puts in the body of the ordinance, in the body of the charter itself, the fact that Minnesota residents are subject to prosecution and enforcement if they are not in compliance with state laws and when they're doing this process. And it just helps to make sure that everybody that does it is going to be a Minnesota resident. In the past, people have hired people from outside the state to come in and circulate a petition for their own particular purposes, a la Best Buy a number of years ago. So they have to be Richfield residents, or Minnesota residents if they're trying to circulate a petition in Minnesota. Section 5.05 is just changes in simplifying language. And then let's see, as we continue on, one of the things that changes on page 722, it says that if you're asked to be a signer of a petition, you have to be a resident and a registered voter in the city of Richfield. And this was just to make sure that people who are circulating the petitions put the people who sign the petitions on notice, that they can't just be somebody who's visiting a local store and doing their dry cleaning or something. They have to be a resident. You can't sign if you're not a resident in the community. And if nothing else, that would certainly help our city clerks who have to verify all of the signatures that are on these petitions. And another addition on the petition itself is that whoever signs their name also has to print legibly their name. This will help them try and identify, are these people really registered voters, because we can actually read their name. It gives a few more extra days for the city clerk to examine these petitions, which is reasonable. So it's changed from 5 to 10 working days. And the city clerk is just clarifying part of the amendment on 723 says that the city clerk will use a voter registration list in effect on the date the petition was filed to determine whether that person is a registered voter for purposes of making sure they have the right number of signatures. And let's see, other changes on the referendum section. I noticed that on page 725 of your of the council packet, it's again saying it's not a substantive change, it's just repeating requirements for the petition rather than relying on a cross-reference to a different section. And again on 512 on the next page, 7-26, again the change adds residency requirements for referendum petitions for the same reason that they were added on initiative petitions. And then we have on 727, again, you have to be a registered voter in the city for the same reason, and you have to print legibly on your petition if you're doing one. And then we have some changes in the recall. Again, most of those are for making the language simpler to understand. And I had one question, and this is for Mary, on recall petitions.
What page?
I'm on 729. Or maybe that's not the right page. Let's see. So under the proposal, it says that every circulator of a signature petition for a recall must be a resident of the state of Minnesota, but they don't have to be Richfield residents. Is that correct?
I think that you could, Madam Mayor, Councilmember Sandal, this would certainly mean, I don't know what the discussion was with the commission, but I think that you could require, you could make it more restrictive to require that they be a resident of the city of Richfield, or that broader, that they be simply a resident of the state of Minnesota. There isn't a mandatory requirement, or it's not a statutory requirement that I'm aware of.
Okay, so we could have Edina residents who are circulating petitions to
Well.
recall Richfield council people.
Well, for the petition signers, it says here, you must be a resident of and a
Yeah,
registered
the
voter in the
signers
city
must
of
be, yeah,
Richfield.
yeah. It's just the circulators.
Yeah.
So, okay, then onward as we go through the changes in the back. Again, a change to give the clerks more time to study this, whatever the petitions are filed from 5 days to 10 days. And on page 7-31 of our council report, it does say that a recall election, there are, again, simplifications in the language. And the substantive change is to alter the time requirements for holding a special recall election, because the existing requirements that are existing in our charter now are too restrictive under state law. So that seems appropriate. And continuing on, clarification of language, clarification of election time. Another one that adds a criminal penalty in there to just confirm that if people are circulating petitions, they must follow the law. Otherwise, they can't make a false affidavit, or there's a penalty. And then the final one on page 734 just reduces a time delay for a 30-day waiting period if the ordinance would not otherwise have one. So those are the proposed changes in the charter. And it's my understanding that there will be some additional charter changes proposed at our next meeting that weren't able to be discussed today because of a publication issue. So, all right.
That's correct, Madam Mayor.
Okay. And, one other thing I don't know that I specifically talked about is amendments to section 804 has to do with, which is on page 123 of the first report at the beginning, is an update of the amounts of money that are required, that clarifies whether there's a trigger that requires there to be a public meeting or public hearing, and it's to raise those numbers from numbers that have been in place for quite a few years, from 500,000 to 2 million for construction contracts, and from 75,000 to 250,000 for design and engineering contracts. And the report indicates that the Charter Commission indicated that the existing amounts should be updated to reflect increased construction and design costs. So those are the brief highlights, and perhaps it is a public hearing, but perhaps the members of the Charter Commission want to say something. They're welcome to do that.
This is quite a body of work. It'd be nice to. Okay.
Okay.
This is a lot of work to go through and a lot of updates, and appreciate that. Okay. Appreciate that. And I know that we had a lot of help from city attorneys, too.
Okay, so it's a public hearing then.
Anyone like to come forward? This is a public hearing. Anybody can come up to speak on the matter before us.
Second.
All those in favor signify by aye.
I
Opposed? The public hearing is closed. Councilmember?
And then this is not going to be decided tonight. It's going to be deferred, as I understand it, until the meeting in June.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just to have the public hearing for anyone that might have an interest in it.
Correct.
And then we will consider all of them up or down in June.
That's right, that's right. And council member, I believe we had to skip yours for next meeting as well, so we'll go to item number 9. This is consideration of approval of an alternate design option for the renovation of Fire Station 2 and award of a contract. On September 11th, 2012, council passed an ordinance approving the renovation of Fire Station number 2. Leo A. Daly Architects were retained by the city to create the design and plans for the renovation. The original project cost estimate was around $900,000. The project was released for bid on March 14th, 2013. The construction bids were received ranging from $804,000 and about $1.1 million when they were added to the project as soft costs, design fees, asbestos abatement, temporary housing, resulted in a total project cost of $1.2 million. Major component of the increased costs were determined to be the new metal panel facade that would cover the front of the station. Based on the statement of the values received from the bidder, the cost of the new facade during the round of bidding was estimated at $180,000. So on April 23rd, the council rejected all bids and authorized staff to conduct a new bidding process. And staff met with the architects, and through value engineering, were able to make some modifications and anticipated the result of reducing the costs. An additional significant change to the bid was approved, and the facade for the base bid instead making it an alternate option. And at this time, I will let staff finish the report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, council members. When we've completed the bids,
Okay.
we came back with a significant savings with the value engineering. We're recommending that alternate 1, replacement of emergency backup power generator, be included. Alternate 2, replacement of the rear apparatus garage door with a new insulated door for energy efficiency, be included. Alternate 3, addition of lockers to store our firefighting turnout gear. An addition of a building access control system that will work with the existing access control system installed at the municipal center, and installation of resinous flooring in the apparatus bay to protect and extend the service life of the concrete floor. The one option that we have to decide, and we're requesting council's direction on, is alternate 5, which is the facade, the building facade. If you take a look at your monitors right now, Leo A. Daly gave us a rendering without the facade, as you can see right now. You'll see the new bump out for the office area where the carport exists. And I think it looks really nice. But then you've got the option to put on the new facade. They're 1/8-inch metal panels. They're red. And I think it really pops out the fire station onto the avenue. And then the other consideration is that with the facade, we'd be able to put the Penn Central neighborhood branding on the front of the station. If we don't put the facade up, we won't be changing anything on the apparatus bay, and there won't be a place to do that. So we're asking for council's direction on that, and if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them.
Council, it's too bad that Pat Elliott is not here at this time, but I know that he is a big in favor of the Penn Central branding and the Penn Central name, and sits on that committee. And actually, I think it really sets the neighborhood apart. And as we try to move Penn Central forward, I like the idea of that. So I would weigh in that I like the facade, the red. Council? Tom Fitzhenry?
I guess my question is the value of the $82,000. I remember when you guys were discussing the city garage complex, and they were talking about the top on that, and it being more expensive, and I'm not sure it took away from any of the aesthetics of our city garage not having that cap around the top. Well, I think it was in the neighborhood of 200,000. This is a long time ago. So I kind of weighed that in with, yes, I'd like to have the fire station recognizing that. I'm just wondering the value for the 82,000, whether it's really worth it. So that's where I'm sitting.
Okay. Councilmember Sando.
I guess I'd like to know what the firefighters think about the red.
Firefighters really like red.
That's what I thought.
I bought a new bike this weekend. I was a little upset that I couldn't get a red one. So,
it says it's a fire station. It clearly does. I mean, I don't think it's impossible to put Penn Station on the other one. It could go in front where the windows L'd out in the front. Where it says Richfield Station number 2. And then in the front, just above that yellow glassware, whatever glass it is, could have Penn Station. I mean, there would be room
Penn
for
Central.
it. Penn Central, yeah. But I must say, I do think that red is distinctive.
Sure. Council member.
Well, I think being that we are going to be sprucing up, redeveloping, and, just making some changes in that area, I think we might as well go ahead and do it. I like the red. Matches the fire truck.
All right. Then I guess we're going to be going with the little bit more expensive.
Are we still under what we had?
We're just discussing. I can make a motion, though.
Go ahead, yes.
I make a motion to accept the bid minutes tabulated and award contract for renovation of Fire Station Number 2 to Daring Pearson Group LLC in the sum of $657,000 and add alternates 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 7 in the amount of $145,560. Have a second?
Second.
Other discussion?
Okay, and the 5 is the front.
Yep, that brings the
5 is
first
front.
bid, brings the
Are we
facade.
under what we had originally estimated? I don't recall. We're still over?
About around.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, we are not under. I think originally, I think we looked at something in the vicinity of 900,000.
900,000 was the original estimate
For the project, and
including the facade.
including all the facade and all the other soft costs, isn't that correct?
Mm.
And we're probably at what, a million? A little over a
We're
million?
1.065.
1,065. Certainly, we'll be able to find the money to do that extra part of it. I have to say that, as cheap as I am, I have to say that I like the red.
Okay.
You've
That's
reassured
usually our
us.
word for you. You always say frugal, but you're cheap.
Okay. Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye opposed. Motion carries.
Thank you.
We have, thank you very much, too. We have the city manager's report.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, actually, I don't have anything really much to add, except I would just want to add on to what Councilmember Garcia said a little while ago about the liquor store. The soft opening was about a week and a half ago, and people who walk in the store are basically saying, "Wow, what a difference!" or "Wow, what a store!" And the real grand opening is happening this weekend, as Edwina said. It's going to be on Friday night and Saturday. And there will be live music there. There'll be a lot of drawings and lots of prizes to give away that Bill was able to get from the various vendors, distributors. KQRS radio personality Terry Train's going to be there Saturday afternoon for about 2 or 3 hours. So she always draws a big crowd, and the KQRS truck will be out there in front of the liquor store. So it's going to really be hopping on Friday night and Saturday at the liquor store, and it's going to be I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Friday night there's a wine tasting there's a lot of different wines that they'll be serving there. So it's going to be a fun place to be. I'm going to be there.
Thank you.
Good.
Wonderful. Claims and payroll.
So move.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor signify by aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. We do have another person who brought up for the open forum. It is Deanna and Hurley regarding a thank you to the dispatch. Would you please come to the mic, Mr. Hurley?
Madam Mayor, Consul Bernard Hurley, and I'm here because the first speaker you had this evening was somebody from the dispatchers. And whatever the dispatchers want, I would say grant them. They're very quick action and bringing the firemen and the emergency squadron to my home saved my wife's life. And I thank you very kindly, and I want you to extend the thank you onto them.
Certainly.
Thank
certainly.
you.
Thank you. Thank you for doing that. At this time, we have a special city council closed executive session, and I will let the city attorney give the regular speech about why we have that and what we're doing.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Yes, the city council is going to be going into a closed executive session to consider an offer to purchase real property located at 6414 17th Avenue, and also to have an attorney-client discussion related to potential initiation of litigation to acquire remaining properties included in the Richfield Parkway Improvement Project that have not yet closed, including the following: 6314 17th Avenue, 6320 17th Avenue, 6408 17th Avenue, 6426 17th Avenue, and 6344 17th Avenue. We will go into a closed session for these discussions and then come back into an open meeting to get direction from the council.
So we will reconvene for those who would like to wait around. Council? Does anybody need a 5-minute break? I'm fine. What room are we headed to? Steve? City
Which
manager?
room?
Which room?
Oh,
Back up.
I got it. We can get into this.
Okay.
Mhm. Don't remember. Oh, okay.
Okay, and thank you, everyone, for holding on while we do some business. And we have made some decisions, and there will be some resolutions. And we are now reconvening the regular city council meeting, and Councilmember Sandal, you will be presenting the resolutions.
Thank you. I have one. I don't think I have the second one yet.
That's where we're going to do one, right?
No,
We're going to be
we're doing
both.
two.
Okay.
Do we have oh, he has it.
Okay. I have this one.
Yeah,
All right.
that
thank
one.
you.
Okay. Councilmember?
All right, thank you. This is involving the Richfield City Parkway north of 66th Street on 17th Avenue. And what's come before us is a purchase agreement, and I will move the following. This is a resolution to approve the purchase agreement of property located at 6414 17th Avenue South for the purchase price of $165,000 plus relocation benefits as provided by law. And I think that was it.
I will so move that.
Second? Any other discussion? I appreciate staff's time. Thank you. All those in favor signify by aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Councilmember, the next resolution?
Okay, thank you. All right, the second is a resolution dealing with 4 properties that are along the same strip of the new proposed Richfield Parkway, as it's going to be redeveloped. And this is 4 properties in which we've reached agreement with the homeowners, but we're running into problems with the various banks involved with the properties. And so it's a resolution authorizing and directing a condemnation of certain properties for public purpose. The public purpose is the completion of the parkway as described. And the properties involved are on the attached addendum. And they are parcels 1 at 6314 17th Avenue, parcel 2 at 6320 17th Avenue, parcel 7 at 6408 17th Avenue, and parcel 9 at 6426 17th Avenue South. And I will move that as a resolution by this city council.
Second.
And
Please, staff.
Yeah, Madam Mayor and
Yeah.
Councilmember Sandal, just for the record, you did point out that all 4 of these properties are properties for which the homeowners have accepted purchase agreements. So the condemnation action is really necessary to take off some of the encumbrances that are on the property, namely their primary mortgage. But this is something that's informally termed a friendly condemnation, since it's not something where we're in an adversarial position with the homeowners. And this is really common in pretty much every redevelopment project we do, that some kind of condemnation action is necessary to clear a title on a property that the owner has agreed to sell.
Thank you for that explanation, Mr. Stark.
Any other discussion? Again, thank you, staff. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Seeing no further items on the agenda, I call the meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for the hard work.